My name's Eileen Booth, and I'm a psychologist. I work with young adults, all the way up through geriatric patients, and I work at Utah Valley Psychiatry and Counseling. My education background, all of my degrees come from Brigham Young University. I completed a bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in music. I was a flautist in college. And master's degree in counseling and guidance, which is aiming at putting me in the schools, being a school psychologist type of person. And then the PhD is in counseling psychology with a minor in organizational behavior.
This is Travis Wayne Goodsell. I came up with another way to talk about the fraud of psychiatry. In Utah, we know about marijuana Proposition 2 that was denied by the LDS Church and thus by the Utah legislature, despite the majority of Utah Mormons wanting it, because there are an overwhelming number of those with the illnesses causing seizures, for example, that require medical marijuana to control the symptom of seizures. And so it's very clear the Mormon Church hates sick people. They hate the poor. They don't have any interest in healing, even though they claim to have the gift of healing. You'll excuse me as I eat my lunch. Kroger fries. Good. I chose to have ketchup rather than fry sauce. And so, you notice what I said about that. Medical marijuana only treats the symptoms of people with a disease. The seizure is not the problem. The seizure is a symptom of the problem. And in the medical profession, it's a sad thing to see doctors giving up on searching for the cause and curing the cause and only prescribing medicine for symptom relief, which then creates side effects, which then require you to get more medication to handle those symptoms of the side effects. And again, side effects. You're treated for the side effects. Those are symptoms of the cause being the initial medicine to treat the symptoms of a disease that the doctor is not treating. And so I've used the analogy in another video of if you fall off the roof and you have to be taken by ambulance to the emergency room because you can't get up and walk, that's a symptom that you're in pain if you try to stand up. The cause is likely a broken bone. And so you go to the doctor, and the doctor pulls up a chair, has you lie down on the hospital bed, and he starts asking you questions. So tell me about your childhood. Tell me how you feel. and you're like, okay, small talk, I guess. And so you start talking about your childhood and how you're feeling. I'm in a lot of pain, doctor. I hurt. And after an hour of telling him you're in pain, you're hurting, the doctor says, oh, our time is up. Here's an appointment to come back and see me next week. and I'll write you a prescription for the pain, give you some opioids. You'd sue the doctor, even though you signed a waiver of medical malpractice. You'd want to sue him because your leg's still broke. He did nothing for it. He did no x-rays. He did no blood work. All he did was sit and talk. And so, why would you think that a psychiatrist who does that very thing that you'd sue a doctor for, why would you think that they know what they're talking about? Because that's what happens. People go in, they lie on a couch, they talk for an hour, sharing their feelings, and then the doctor gives them drugs for the pain. And it's a little different. It's not physical pain. It's heart pain, antidepressants, for one example. Does that solve your problem? No, because now the doctor has you hooked on antidepressant medications for the rest of your life because they did not look for a cause for your supposed depression. They saw the symptom. They said, oh, well, yeah, we'll control your behavior with these antidepressants. That's what psychiatry is all about, controlling behavior. They have no idea what a cause is for all the symptoms that people manifest. They haven't got a clue. Or maybe they do. Ooh, conspiracy. Which, again, they're not real doctors. They don't have to claim do no harm as their Hippocratic oath. They don't have that. And so people who come in who have a serious mental problem, they're being misdiagnosed, and thus they are being mistreated. Malpractice. That's what psychiatry is. It's one big malpractice fraud. It's a scam on the American people. And it's big in Utah because everybody knows Mormon women here in Utah are the highest per capita who take antidepressants. So psychiatry is alive and well here in Utah. It's the big fraud. There are over 1 million people who are receiving treatment from Valley Behavioral Health. They changed it from Valley Mental Health to Behavioral Health. Why? Because they're prescribing drugs for behavioral control. They're not looking for cures. Because, the cure would involve throwing all of the government leaders in prison because of the environment, because of the economy, because of the laws that are made that violate our rights. That's having a direct effect on us as humans. That is the cause in most cases. The serious cases, the real cases, they're not even bothering to look. Because when it has to do with the brain, medical doctors don't touch it. They say, go see a psychiatrist. And so people go in They've been told over and over, or they've been sent there because they've been told that they have an illness. And they keep getting told over and 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 over until they believe it. And even if they don't believe it, they're told that, well, you have a mental illness because you're refusing to believe you have a mental illness. They throw in unsound logic into the mix. That's how big of a fraud they are. They outright lie to you. They create symptoms that aren't really symptoms. Oh yeah, because you're in denial, therefore that's a symptom of the illness that I've diagnosed that you have. Well, I'm a professional, I know all. It's a fraud, people. You're sending your children, your siblings, your parents to these quack jobs. Remember, they used to be called quacks. There's a reason. But you're trusting your loved ones with these people. And as a result, your loved ones are not being helped. And so, yeah, we've got a crisis here in the United States and in Utah, caused by psychiatry, caused by the Utah government using psychiatry as part of the cover-up. And so, yeah, you know, what happens if you have a child and they are forgetting things? They can't remember. And, you know, is it Alzheimer's? Is it Parkinson's? Is it schizophrenia? It could be any of those. But guess what? Psychiatrists have come up with a spectrum disorder for all of these diagnoses. And so how a medical doctor should work is that you go in, you tell him your symptoms, he runs tests to confirm that, okay, yes, those are the actual symptoms, and is able to find out from the tests that, okay, that's why you're having the symptoms, is because we found the cause. It's salmonella poisoning or whatever. So it's one disease, and one disease has a list of symptoms that are expected. And if it's different or only part symptoms and maybe some other symptoms that are not with that one disease, then it would be classified as another disease altogether. Maybe similar to it, but it's classified as different. But the thing is that they've identified the cause. They don't just go off of the symptoms. They know the cause. And so doctors should know to treat the cause rather than treating the symptoms. And so in psychiatry, they don't know the cause. They don't have a clue. And so how are they diagnosing then? They're diagnosing only by symptoms. And if you're the one telling them what your problem is, and you're not telling all of them, or if you're rebellious and in denial, how are they then able to get a correct diagnosis if your symptoms are not being manifest to them, if you're not being honest with them or not being complete with them? And so you can see where there's a huge problem here, I hope. And the spectrum disorder part comes in when they have symptoms that correspond with a category they've already established. But if you come in and you're short a couple of symptoms, or you have additional symptoms along with the symptoms for that category, that's when they call it a spectrum disorder. And you're anywhere on the spectrum between having only a few of the symptoms to having additional symptoms. And in the middle is the actual categorization that they're diagnosing you with. And it's all fraud, because they don't know the cause. And so if you have autism, if you have kids with autism, there is a problem. But if your kid is just misbehaving because you've taught your kid that your kid can get away with screaming and yelling at the grocery store in the candy aisle, and you're wanting to know, well, how do I get him to stop? It's called, you didn't teach him right. You need to teach kids. Talk to them. When they get old enough, it's usually around in their twos. That's why they're the terrible twos. They're asking all these questions. What's that? What's this? What does this do? What is that? What is that? And it drives you nuts. And you don't want to answer. You got to answer. Kids are wanting to learn. They're sponges. So tell them. Candy is fun. But if you have too much candy, it will hurt you. And you can point to inside, point to their side where the pancreas. I think that's the pancreas where diabetes, the insulin, whatever, but you can tell them this. They may not understand it, but you can let them know that, hey, I'm okay with giving you candy once in a while, but I don't want to hurt you. And I don't want you to overdose on candy. There are ways to teach kids correctly, so that when you go to the grocery store and they go down the candy aisle, they will say, oh, that's the candy I like, Mom. Yes, it is. I think we're low on that. Let's get another box. Or, well, we've already got some at home still. We don't need to get it this time around. And if you have a set time, like dessert, then the child is secure that he doesn't need to freak out because he sees candy and wants it. Because oftentimes with toys, for example, they see it, and it may be a character that they saw from a Disney movie or a commercial, and oh my, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. Then you get it for them, and then you find out that it was left on the floor and unattended, and they gave up playing with it because it wasn't as exciting as they thought it would be because they recognized the character. And so again, teach them, explain to them what you are thinking, how you want to raise them, how you want to help them learn. Otherwise the kids are going to be terrible because they're going to rebel because they think you're out to get them. That's why they're the terrible twos, because you're not raising them right. And so yes, my kids were perfect at 2 years old because we raised them right. We talked to them. I figured things out. I noticed, what, Clayton, why are you bonking me on my head? Oh yeah, the other day we bonked heads as you were trying to get up on the couch, and you were about to cry, so I recognized that you were about to cry, so I went in a dramatic fashion, bonk, oh, and you thought that was funny. And so you were trying to recreate that happy moment between father and son. And then when we saw the Simpsons episode of Homer Simpson falling down the stairs going, bong, you thought that was funny because you recognized where that came from, of a daddy-son bonding moment. And then Mother came in and ruined it all by saying the Simpsons was evil and corrupting the son and turning it off. Gotta teach your kids right. Simpsons are great. So, I hope you understand. Psychiatry is a big fraud. You know, they get called on during school shootings. They have guidance counselors. They have psychiatric counselors at the schools. And guidance counselors are better, but they really don't know what to do. You know, I took all those tests of which career field are you best at? And, oh, okay, I'm below average on everything. I'm even not even recommended for school janitor. So yeah. So I hope you understand that there are serious problems out there, but you got to find somebody who goes for the cause. And there is no money to be made from finding a cure. There is only money to be made by treating the symptoms. Because when you treat the symptoms, the person gets side effects from the medication or drugs, in the case of psychiatry, and they have to be given more drugs. And so you have the elderly who are being abused. When you go in, see your grandma in the hospital, the nursing home, or wherever, and you see this big pile of pill bottles next to her bed, or in the bathroom, or the kitchen, or wherever she keeps them. That's abuse, people. They are being misdiagnosed, mistreated, and they're being drugged. They're killing them. You know, they can claim that, oh no, we're prolonging life. Oh, why aren't you finding a cure? That would prolong life, wouldn't it? Well, there is no cure. Why aren't you looking for one? Well, I make more money giving people drugs for side effects. It's not simple. And so why do we allow it in the medical profession? And why do we allow it in psychiatry especially? It's criminal behavior. It's attempted murder. Because you can see it. All of the commercials that talk about, you know, some illness you have. And they talk about this new drug, which is the same drug that they just changed the name of, because the previous drug was hauled off into court, and they said, no, you can't make this drug anymore, so they renamed it, and it's back on the market. And they'll listen to the symptoms. The judge had one point ordered that all pharmaceutical companies had to advertise the symptoms or side effects of taking the particular drug. And they all have death as one of the side effects, one of the symptoms of taking the drug. Yeah, oh gee, I want to die. Give me drugs. So, yeah, we've got a huge crisis. And everybody just wants to do surface work to make it appear as if they're working to solve the crisis. But it's not being fixed. So, yeah, there you go. Psychiatry is a big fraud. So the next time a school shooting happens and you watch as the psychiatrist comes in to save the day, kids don't want to talk about their feelings. They want gun violence to stop. They don't want their lives threatened. Pursue the cause, not the side effects. So, yeah, Utah's a big problem with this. So, but the Utah legislature has given them full reign, and they're preventing people from getting a trial where they can be found innocent of the charges, because if you don't plead guilty to lesser charges, because they always trump up charges on you. Always. And that's purposely done so that you would plead guilty to lesser charges. Because you are threatened saying, oh, well, if we take it to court, you're going to see life in prison. You know what they do to you in prison? They scare you. You know? But nobody goes to trial, so nobody has ever challenged them. And why? Because if you say, I'm innocent, I didn't do anything, take me to court. I want to prove my innocence. Well, now all of a sudden, you've got a mental illness, because you're not comprehending and appreciating the seriousness of the charges against you. And so they need to ship you down to the forensic unit at the Utah State Hospital, where you have a 1-hour class once a week going over 1 hour's worth of the list of things that demonstrate your competency and appreciation of the charges against you. And then you see an evaluator after 3 months, and then the evaluator says, yeah, you regurgitated correctly. You're qualified to go to trial. But if it was a misdemeanor charge, yeah, you get set free. You've already done your 3 months time at least, if you hadn't already done 7 months in jail. So you could do easily upwards of a year without ever going to trial. And so misdemeanor charges, yeah, they release you. Yeah, you've done your time. We got you. But those who have the trumped up charges that they refuse to lower to have you plead guilty with, you know, they intend to keep you in the hospital for life. And so, yeah, you get an evaluator who says, you could lie to me. What do you mean lie? It's regurgitation. All I have to do is repeat the answers that I was taught through the regurgitation method. How can I lie? 2 + 2 is 4. I think you're lying to me, Billy. You cheated somehow, I know it. It's just absurd. And so the whole thing's a scam, people. And it's all because they don't want you to expose the corruption here in Utah. And thus they aggravate the problem. They get so many people, jails are overcrowded. And so then they get this great idea. Well, why don't we get drug dealers into programs for their addiction, and then we'll get the mental people into programs for their mental illness. And then that'll clean out the jails. First of all, that's horrifying. And I've got the clip on that. That's part of the killing Mormon or killing Utahns thing video I'm going to do. But yeah, that's happening. They're doing that this year. So yeah, there's a serious problem, but they're only dealing with the symptoms, because the cause means that they are guilty of criminal behavior and attempted murder from the malpractice of the psychiatrist and the bad laws that are created on the books in violation of the Constitution. Life, liberty, property, those are our rights. All laws are supposed to protect our lives, liberty, and property. If we're going to jail indefinitely without a trial, our liberty is not being protected, is it? It's very simple. We don't have to be lawyers. We don't have to be politicians. We don't have to be government officers to know when our rights are being violated. So, all right. So that's 30 minutes. We're up. So, it's a fraud, people. There are serious problems, and nobody's wanting to look for a cure. We've got to get people to look for a cure.